Therapy animal insurance. What is it and do you need it? The short answer is yes. And why? Because we live in a very litigious society. I can already hear you saying, now Taylor, my dog would never hurt anyone. And while that might be the case, there are many different ways that you could be involved in an incident. Today, we're going to talk about when you might use your insurance coverage, what kind of coverage you need, and how you can get it.
My name is Dr. Taylor Chastain Griffin, and I've dedicated my life to studying the human-animal bond. With a background as a dog trainer, mental health counselor, researcher, and therapy animal expert, my mission is to show others what happens when we become the people our dogs think we are.
First, let's quickly talk about when you would use your liability insurance coverage. That's any time that there's an incident. Now, we have to remember incidents are broadly defined when we talk about animal-assisted interventions. This goes way beyond a dog bite, which thankfully are very rare in this field. This could be an accidental scratch, property damage, or even emotional harm. If the people you are visiting with perceive something to be an incident, it is an incident, and you need coverage that protects you. So what kind of insurance coverage do you need? Well, you need to make sure there are 3 different types of coverage in your policy. Number 1, protection against bodily injury. You also need to make sure you have protection against property damage and coverage for your therapy animal. If you're a professional who's bringing a therapy or facility animal into your practice, you need some additional specific liability coverage that we'll talk about here in just a moment. So how do you get insurance coverage for your animal-assisted interventions? This depends a bit on the kind of work that you do. First, let's talk about volunteering. If you're volunteering with your therapy animal, this means that you're not receiving any payment for your services. You should look for an organization that provides liability insurance coverage for you. Now be careful, not all organizations, even the big international ones, they don't all provide therapy animal insurance for their volunteers. You also want to check out their standards of practice, making sure that they align with the field's best. I'll put a link in the video description to therapyanimalstandards.org. This is a great place to look and make sure that your organization is aligning with the field's best practices. Of course, I recommend Pet Partners. They have wonderful liability insurance coverage, but note, no matter what organization you join, be very aware of their policies and practices. For example, if the organization has rules against volunteering for more than 2 hours at a time, if they have rules requiring you to have the leash in your hands at all time, or requiring you not to feed a raw diet, if it's found that you're in violation of those policies when an incident occurs, then your coverage could be at risk. What if you're a professional who's bringing your therapy or facility animal into your work with you? In this case, you need to make sure you have your own supplemental liability insurance policy. We see many professionals who are confused about this. You belong to a volunteer organization who provides you with insurance, so you think that insurance applies while you're on the clock, and it doesn't. If you're getting any kind of financial payment for your services, and this might mean you're just bringing your animal to work with you as a part of your day job, then the volunteer organization's insurance does not apply. You need additional coverage. First, check your existing liability insurance coverage and pay special attention to the exclusions area. Oftentimes, there will be an animal exclusion, which applies to animal-assisted interventions. Insurance policies are really hard to read though, so I highly recommend you call your representative and talk to them about the work that you do. Be ready with really clear definitions, explain the difference between therapy, service animals, really be able to explain to them how that animal is brought into your day job, and make sure you have coverage that includes your animal-assisted interventions. Before we talk about how to get coverage, I want to talk about a huge myth we see in this field, and that's the myth of homeowners insurance coverage. We hear from a lot of people who say, oh, don't worry, my homeowner's insurance covers the work that I do with my therapy or facility animal. This might be the case in some very rare exceptions, but usually your homeowner's insurance is not going to cover things that take place outside of your personal property, and it's not going to cover anything that relates to your business matters. So if you think that your homeowner's insurance policy is covering you, check twice with your provider and make sure. How do you get a supplemental insurance policy? Now, we talked about if you're a volunteer, look for that organization that covers your liability insurance while you're volunteering. If you're a professional, then check out the Association of Animal Assisted Intervention Professionals. They've created a policy in collaboration with the Business Insurers of the Carolinas, and that is an organization that has been providing insurance in the pet space for a very long time. There's some great coverage options, usually around $250 a year with a $100 deductible for up to $1 million of coverage. Now that's for one professional and one animal, but you can add more animals. You can even add more services. If you're a dog trainer, there's really comprehensive custom packages that you can build. There are some eligibility requirements when you apply for that insurance coverage. You'll be required to either be a member of AAAIP or have your knowledge-based Animal Assisted Intervention Specialist certification. That's important to your insurance providers because they want to make sure you're aware of best practices in the field. They're also going to require an objective third-party evaluation of you and your therapy animal, so that can happen through an organization like Pet Partners, or even AAAIP offers evaluations for professional therapy animal teams. So you'll have to have those eligibility requirements fulfilled when you apply, but the process is very easy. I'll put the link there in the description of this video so that you can learn more. So if you're volunteering or working professionally with your therapy animal, remember, liability insurance is so important. Do not skip this part. There are organizations and resources out there that can walk you through every step of the way, but you need to make sure both you and your animal are protected when you're out sharing their love. If you have questions about liability insurance, put them in the comments. And remember, I use this channel to talk about all things therapy animals, so be sure to like and subscribe.